Thank you so much again for visiting me again. My name is Terrence Rizell. I am a master's level mental health therapist with 15 years of experience working with those with mental health issues, with emotional disturbances, and just life problems. I've also am a former pastor and a reverend, so I come from a Christian background. Well, today we want to deal with a topic that we're all familiar with. We want to talk about how to respond to failure. How do we respond to failure? What do you do? How do you deal with it? Well, first we've got to have some thinking about failure and maybe even correct some thinking about failure. First, we must understand this. Failure is life. Life in times of failure, moments of failure, is a human experience and something that every human being at one point or another, no matter how enthusiastic they may be or even unrealistic they may be, at some time or another, we're going to experience failure. It is a human experience. It is a part of being human. It is a part of the wonderful process of life. But there are positive things to failure. Failure can sometimes help us learn things, see things, come in unconscious contact with things that we would have not been able to any other way. Sometimes it brings us to moments of humility, of human understanding, of human frailties and the frailties of others. It helps us to connect with the human, with society and the human part of everyone on earth. Failure is something that everyone can relate to. And then there's another side of failure also. We must understand this, and we must correct this misconception. And the misconception is this, that failing makes you a failure. This is what many of us have learned, that failing means that you're a failure. Is this true? If you fail at something, that means you're a failure? Well, let me tell you this. If this statement is true, then we would have to say to some of the most successful people that this planet has ever seen that they are failures, because failure is an experience of the successful. Let me give you an example. Walt Disney, before he built the most wonderful empire called Disney World, and this wonderful place for us to enjoy and bring our families, before this he experienced the bankruptcy. He had a business called Laugh-O-Grams that went completely under. And he suffered tremendous failure before he had went to Hollywood, became a tremendous success. Abraham Lincoln, who to date is the most influential president that we have ever seen or experienced tremendous failure. Let me read you his resume, and you decide whether Abraham Lincoln is a failure or not. He was born into poverty. In 1816, his family was forced out of their home, and he had to work to support them. In 1818, his mother died. In 1831, he had a failed business. In 1832, he ran for state legislature and he lost. In 1832, he also lost his job and wanted to go to law school, but he could not get in. In 1833, he borrowed money from a friend to begin a business. And within a year, at the end of that year, the business was bankrupt, and he spent the next 17 years paying this debt off. In 1834, he ran for state legislation again, and he lost. In 1835, he was engaged to be married to a woman who was his sweetheart, and she died, and he was brokenhearted. In 1836, Abraham Lincoln had a total nervous breakdown and was in bed for a total of 6 months. In 1838, he sought to become Speaker of the state legislature, and he was defeated. In 1840, he sought to become an elector and was defeated. In 1843, he ran for Congress again, and he lost. In 1846, he ran in Congress again. This time he won, and he went to Washington, and he did a good job. But despite the good job he did, people did not recognize it. And when he ran again in 1948, 2 years later, for re-election for Congress, he lost. In 1849, he sought the job of land officer in his home state, and he was rejected. In 1854, he ran for Senate of the United States and once again lost. In 1856, he sought the vice presidential nomination at his party's national convention and got less than 100 votes. In 1858, He ran for U.S. Senate again, and he lost. However, you know the date. In 1860, he was elected President of the United States, and he turned the face of the United States upside down. He turned it around. God knows where we would be if it were not for the influence of Abraham Lincoln. You know, so does failure make you a failure? Is this true? If what you're saying is true, if you really believe this, then you have to say that Walt Disney and Abraham Lincoln are failures, and I don't think that anyone would agree with you. And I don't agree that because you failed at something, that you're a failure. That's not true. There was a study done and conducted, and it was designed to identify the differences in the key